Captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is gonna be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMAjunkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMAjunkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMAjunkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMAjunkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMAjunkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMAjunkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me as always is the Divas and Dastardly Goes. Ari's co-host to my left, Dan Tom, he's the fight analyst. Over to my far right, John Morgan, nominated for Journalist of the Year, also the 2009 Journalist of the Year, and Danny Otto, back east, handling the producing duties. Hey, guys.
What is this, the All-Star Weekend? That's a hell of a crew.
I think so.
That's what's up. I was pointing to the empty trophy. I got confused. Like, where did our trophy go?
Beaver up.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Nice run for Peru, but it's over.
Yeah.
They cannot qualify for the next round. Disappointing that they didn't even score a goal in both games. France is tough, and to lose 1-0 is really no shame. But to not even score on Denmark and to, I don't know. I'm just bummed out about it. But here we are. You know, it's this the show always cheers me up.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if you pick up a USA Today, not the sports section.
That is
of USA Today.
That was a pleasant surprise.
Pick up a USA Today and look at the front page. You might be surprised.
Yeah, thank you to Jason Ford or Chris Perrone or Dan Stupp or someone that may have pulled a string. Steve Henson. Who are the other suits over there?
Hey, you name the ones that matter. We don't worry about the rest of them.
All right. One of those must have said, "We got some space, huh?" Give them boys some
There is
love.
another one. He's probably listening on.
What that guy?
All right, so here we are on a Thursday, reacting to last night's episode of Tough. We'll have the winner of that episode on, Brad Katona. He now is a finalist in Tough at the Tough finale because they have two different weight classes. We just don't know his opponent. We'll find that out here in the next coming weeks. We have one lightweight, Trezano, and we have one featherweight, Katona, who have already advanced, and they will be fighting on July 6th for that contract, they say. Notoriety, I mean, a lot comes with it. I don't know if it was as prestigious as it was in the first few years. The important thing is they got great coaching. They put themselves through the ringer, and I think they all come out better martial artists.
Well, that's what I was going to say is that, first of all, props to Brad Katona. I've been a Bryce Mitchell fan for a while, man. Thug Nasty, I love that kid. I hope he makes it to the UFC as well, man. I think he's got a lot of talent. So for Brad Katona to win, a lot of respect to him. And he's a good kid, man. You know, we got to go in the house and interview everybody, and Brad's a good kid, so I'm happy for him. I was a little bummed for Bryce Mitchell because he was one of the guys that I was kind of pegging as a favorite. But here's the thing. I mean, I think we're kind of all operating under the assumption that the Ultimate Fighter is gone, right? I mean, this is going to be the last season. ESPN hasn't talked about it. You know, Dana finally actually told me, I think in Liverpool, where he was like, yeah, this may be the end. It's the first time, you know, he'd kind of said, okay, maybe it's over. I will say that, like, I mean, there's no doubt about it. The Contender Series is a better product, right? I mean, it's more immediate, you know what I mean? It's more exciting. It's live. I mean, it's a better product. But I will say this. the fighters on the Ultimate Fighter got, as far as like what it did to develop them early in their career, as you mentioned, George, the coaching. I mean, they got, a lot of these guys are coming from smaller camps or whatever, and they get a chance to see, high level stuff with the coaches that they're working with. So that's big stuff. But the other thing is just the practice with the cameras, the practice with those interviews that they're doing on a daily basis. It's like media training, you know what I mean? Like, because they're having to do those little, what do they call them, confessional type videos or whatever. They're having to do those. They got basically media training, you know what I mean? And that goes a long way, man. I mean, the sport, heck yeah, it's about wins and losses. It's about how good you fight. But let's be honest, it's also about, how well you move the needle in terms of media obligations. So I will think that that'll be one thing that's missing, that those fighters won't have. They got a lot of practice, and you could see it. You could see the refinement on the show. So that's one thing. But
and they're mentored as well. They're
absolutely
not just coached. They're mentored. They're around. The UFC's very careful about who they select to be the coaches, and so that rubs off.
Definitely.
Sometimes it's actually had people make these lifelong friendships, relationships where they've either moved their camp.
That's right.
Or at least they'll go and have a stretch, 3 weeks, and then bounce and finish with their own camp. But either way, it opens their eyes, and it I think just gives you a slab of truth, whether you really got it or not,
And that's not to make the case to keep the show around. I get it, man. 27 seasons in, the format's kind of tired. Just get all the way, get that nice round number, and have I mean, listen, I understand. A lot of people aren't watching anymore, and I understand. The format it's pretty steady from season to season, so I understand. I mean, I still watch partly because it's my job, but partly because I'm just an MMA nerd that doesn't do anything else but watch MMA. I get the need for the change, but I will say I think that's one thing that some of those fighters are going to miss that they gained off there. As you said, kind of that mentorship as well. Think about the relationships that people have kept for a long time. It's
another good reason to cancel the show if they do it, and I'm not saying they have to because I watch them all. Yeah, they're running out of coaches challenges. Like I don't know if we can make it to 30 unless they do like a shuffleboard. I'd really like to see Cormier.
I think it's going to be this.
Can you imagine Cormier like pushing the broom or whatever, and then you have Rockhold and Holloway trying to do the sweeper roll? But no, listen, I still watch it. I don't have nothing better to do at 7 p.m. on Wednesday nights, Pacific time. But anyway, we'll catch up with Brad Katona. And I thought about something, though. I'm sure we've discussed this before, maybe not been a while. But would you rather be a finalist, but you lose your fight? Forget about the ass kicking or not. You just lost. Or would you rather be a guy that just lost during the season, but then in the finale, you come out with a win? It's like the tables turn, you know what I mean? Unless you're the winner, the tables can turn.
I'd lose the finale. I'd lose the finale. I mean, I guess the bad part about that is it's a professional loss on your record, whereas if you lose on the season, that's just an exhibition. It's not on your record. But you get those extra video packages. You're in the featured contest. You know what I mean? I got to think, and we're not the average fan, let's be honest. I mean, we're as hardcore as they get, but I got to think the average fan, like a tough finale on, sometimes the seasons are full of like 8 tough bouts. Sometimes there's not. But, you get to that finale. If there's like, 16 fighters from tough on the tough finale, I bet most people don't watch those fights too closely.
It could be. Yeah. I'm thinking about, I'm looking right now at all the UFC champions, and I see Rose Namajunas, tough, right? Robert Whittaker, tough. TJ Dillashaw went through tough.
Forrest was here the other day, tough.
Yeah, so I mean, it's done its job. It definitely has, but you're right. Contender Series may just be the better product.
It's current, right?
You weren't here Wednesday, right?
Right. I was at the
I came in here on Tuesday, or sorry, you weren't here Wednesday. So I came in here Wednesday after Tuesday, and I just don't know if the audience is going to go enough already, but John, I feel a buzz till the next day.
I get it,
man.
I
walk out of there going, I was telling Goes, it's just 2 hours of fights. Sometimes you get these long events. I never have a bad time at a long event, but a long event, sometimes you're fucking drained. You know what I mean? And
I get
you just want to go home and crash, and that's why people go. You go to the after party, it's like, bro, I've been there since 2:30 or 3:30. And then hey, am I on the list? All that bullshit. I'm not trying to do all that, but for here, you walk out of it because it all happens so fast, and it's just a good time. You run into a lot of people from the industry, a lot of networking, but you come out of there and you just have a good feel, you're amped up to talk, and then we have this outlet to do it here on MMAjunkie Radio the next day. But there's storylines.
Listen, I'm the same, and I get a different experience than you because you get to kind of, like you said, network and talk to people. I'm at a table, writing up a recap, so I don't get quite the same experience. but I still get that same buzz. I mean, we're talking the other night, 5 fights in 90 minutes. You know what I mean? And people that are coming there with everything on the line, they're giving it all. Being there live is insane. You know, being so close in the small cage. You know, I mean, I love it. I love the experience. And I tell you, I mean, the weird thing, and people may have seen it on social media, but you know, being back in that kitchen, in the tough kitchen, and sitting there like waiting for them.
Did you snap
We're
that
talking
picture?
about your picture.
Yeah,
We were talking about that.
it was kind of wild, right? You know, I almost felt guilty taking it because you know that's a tough moment for that kid. You know what I mean? I almost felt guilty putting it out there, but it's just, to me, it was so powerful and emotional.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, here's this guy like. Damn, you know, I almost had my dream, and all these other 4 guys got it, and I'm sitting here. But, dude, the tension of, you know, they're all sitting there in that kitchen, and, you know, back there in that kitchen, there's no monitor. So that's what's funny is, like, even us back there, we don't know. Like, anybody that's watching at home will actually know who gets the contracts before we do because there's no monitor back there. So, like, when Laura Sanko's talking to Dana.
Where's she talking to Dana?
Back there where the locker rooms are, on the other side of the cage, basically.
Okay.
So they're talking back there. We're in the kitchen. We don't hear. So all we hear is a producer, or Heidi Dean, who the great Heidi Dean, who runs weigh-ins, and you hear the 5 seconds, baby. That's her. she comes back there and she'll say, you know, hey, you know, George, you got a contract. Come this way. And everybody's, you know, and then like, and you never know. Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? Now we know 4 is a possibility. So everybody just kind of sits there, you know, and goes, you got a contract. Yeah, everybody claps, you know what I mean? And so everybody's still sitting there, and then they come back and they'll be like, that's it. Thank you. Not tonight, maybe in the future. Have a good day. And it's just like, and they're all doing it. I mean, they're all right in front of us, like me, you know, Kenny, you know, whatever else media happens to be there. So it's like that moment of finding out. Not only do we get to see that moment firsthand of them finding out, where you get to see that elation, but we also get to see the moment where they find out if they didn't, and it's just like, you know, you try to keep that stiff upper lip, and you know, oh, it's all right. I'll be back. It's no big deal. But you know, that was the moment. It's just everything about it. I love it. It's a far better product than The Ultimate Fighter. I think it's a hit. Like Dana says, man, I could do this every Tuesday night.
So could I.
I could literally be there every Tuesday night if they could come up with enough bodies to put fights together. I'd be there every Tuesday.
I wanted to ask you about that picture, 'cause we did talk about it. A, how long did it take for you to kind of go, all right, I'm gonna snap it, and B, as a member of the media, you've done this a lot. I would think that after the second person gets announced, do you and Kenny almost, maybe not do it physically, but all right, that's a wrap, let's get ready. When they came out and said, we got a third one, I got to imagine the fighters were like, oh, we might still be good here. But then a fourth one? I would have thought the last 2 guys would have been like, fuck, man, we did, you know, we had a good night. Yeah. Hey, keep your head up. But when the fourth one, I mean, what was that like?
Dude, it was tense back there, and it just to see it. To your first question, as far as taking it, like I did have my phone in my pocket, and I was like, it's so.
He's gonna appreciate that photo.
I hope so. It's one of those things where I really waited out. Like sometimes
today's show.
Well, that's awesome. There's moments where I'm like, I don't know if I should have done that. You know what I mean? Like maybe this is too.
You wrote
raw.
it up
This
very
is too
nicely,
real.
though.
Yeah.
You know, I'll paraphrase, but you just something about this sport can be so difficult, or there's difficult times, or whatever, and you know, I don't think there was anything offensive.
Well, it was funny because what I said was
great tweet, great pick, great caption.
I appreciate that. Yeah, what I said, it's a tough sport. You know, 4 guys get a contract, you get a gutsy 3rd round submission, and you're sitting alone in the tough kitchen. You know, and it was funny because some of the feedback I got on that tweet was, well, I don't think he deserved the contract anyway. I'm like, that's not the point. I'm not here to debate whether or not he deserved a contract. That's not the point. It's just like, look at this. We talk about it. This sport, the highest of highs, the lowest of lows. 4 guys sat next to him and are now UFC fighters. He gutted his way. He got tagged on the feet a little bit, but gutted his way to a 3rd round win. And there he is by himself. And it's, hey, back to the regional stage. Good luck. Right. You know, it's a brutal sport, man.
All right, we'll be back in just a few minutes. We got to take an early, quick one. Remember, on Thursdays we catch up with the winner from the previous night's episode of The Ultimate Fighter. So that'll be Brad Katona, who advances to the finale in the featherweight division. Stay close. We'll be right back.
Z. Up, up, down, down, left, right, B-A, start. You told me that code would get rid of them. Yeah, well, they're still here. Okay, but now they know I tried to kill them. Hold on, Mom. Here are George and Goes.
Tune in for top-class analysis on all the action from the World Cup every day on World Cup Now, which is on SiriusXM FC. Our team of experts break down the top storylines and react to the drama every afternoon at 4 o'clock Eastern on your home for the best coverage of the 2018 World Cup SiriusXM FC 157. Brandon from Louisville, start things off. What's up, buddy?
Gorgeous George Goes, and the returning King of Abuelos, the White Shadow, the Sky Blue Signature, the First Word, the Eater of Nando's, John Morgan.
Dude, I love that.
Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio.
I'm clipping that audio right there. I'm gonna have it play anytime I walk into a room. I like
First
that.
Word? That is pretty good. Yeah. I like Eater of Nando's.
The Eater of Nando's. I'll take that. I might have to change my Twitter bio.
Speaking of Nando's, again, thank you for the recommendation. I got to grab it in Chicago. Highly impressed. I'm sure it's better overseas, but I'll get what I can get.
Damn right. It is better in England, but I'll take it. I did some Nando's in Chicago, too. No question.
So with you being back, I hate to get this into the glass half empty kind of sort that I am. Is this something to do with USA Today? Are we? Notice you're not in Singapore covering, which would normally be a John Morgan special. I don't know if we've got anybody out there today. Is this a junkie thing? Is this just the way that the MMA is kind of, I don't want to say on a downslope, but these cards just don't have as much interest? What's the deal?
No, it's a fair question, man. It's a fair question. And, you know, I hope, bottom line is, hey, it's a business, you know what I mean? And budgets are budgets, and those international trips are expensive, man. Going to Singapore, just the flight over there, the hotels, I mean, it's not cheap. And, you know, we've missed out on a couple of other shows this year. The International Fight Nights is basically what we've missed. And that's where we stand for now. You know, our bosses at USA Today have said, you know, that's not necessarily permanent, but it's where we stand right now. And if we're able to, you know, to add some more income, then maybe we can add back to the travel budget. But for now, you know, we've got to evaluate on a case-by-case basis, a card-by-card basis. And, you know, it wouldn't be a profitable venture for us to go to Singapore, unfortunately. That's the reality of the situation. We wouldn't get back enough clicks and views to pay for my trip, and so that's why we're not in Singapore, and that's why we've missed a couple other shows this year. Hoping, fingers crossed, that that'll change moving forward. It's definitely not a commitment forever, but that's where we stand for now. As far as me being back in here, I love talking MMA, man, and you know, if I am traveling a little bit less, and you know, right now my wife and kid are actually out of the country, but even when they're back, my kid's in school now, so I mean, it's not like I'm leaving my wife alone with the kid for a couple hours. So bottom line is, I just want to get back in here with you boys. Y'all don't get to have all the fun, man. I want to come in and talk a little MMA as well. So
we need to come up with MMAjunkie Plus to rival ESPN Plus. That way we get some of that money to start doing some more travel.
Like, it's just $5 a month.
Throw our podcasts in there. Side podcasts.
All right, let's talk to Brad Katona, who got a win last night. Did you notice just from one episode to the next that Irish accent's it's popping up a little bit more? I mean, they're there for about 6 weeks, so that in between his fights are probably a couple weeks. But Brad Katona defeated Bryce Mitchell last night. He submitted him. Maybe he's up for a bonus there too. Let's talk to him. What's up, Brad? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Yeah. I love how the Irish accent just keeps changing with every week that you're there. You know, I know it was only a couple in the house, but I thought I noticed it a little bit more. It stood out a little bit more on last night's episode.
You know what? It's not an Irish accent. I've talked like this my entire life from what I remember. I didn't talk much as a kid, so my parents put me in speech therapy, and I guess I came out talking like this. So I don't know if it's a power of suggestion, if it's a mix of accents. Maybe living over here for 9 months, something creeped in, but I doubt it. It's just how I've always talked. Everybody that I know at home or telling people online, it's just how I talk. I'm not faking anything. So yeah, it's funny hearing it on TV. I understand the connection, but man, watch any of my old interviews. That's how I've always talked.
It's that regional Canadian accent. Why don't you get out there?
Brad doesn't want to be the Mackenzie Dern. He's like, hey, change the subject, man. It's not an accent.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, that sub was slick. What did your mates back in Ireland think of it? Something tells me you tightened up your game a lot, over there, and Bryce Mitchell's not an easy guy to catch.
No, Bryce Mitchell was definitely the best opponent I've ever fought, and actually won. He's a hell of a competitor, and mostly going into that, I knew he was a gangster on the ground as well. Really being over here at SBG, I've just been, just like you're saying, just sharpening everything up. Just I always like scrambling, but sometimes learning how to control a little bit more. That's something I'm developing over here. And that fight showed a lot of holes that we can that we've been plugging away at. And I'm just excited to be able to go there in the finale and show all the progress I've made since.
What's interesting about this season is there's no cupcakes on the schedule. They didn't get anybody because he's quirky, he's funny, or he's going to start shit. Everybody earned their spot. You know what I mean? So you all got better because you got great coaching. No disrespect, obviously, to your home-based gyms, but a fresh look is never a bad thing. The UFC carefully selects their coaches, and then those coaches bring in, or fighters who are coaches, they bring in others. So I think there's a lot to get out of this season for everybody that's advanced, versus other seasons. Sometimes it's just been maybe not as tough of a road, but I really respect how this season panned out with all of you being undefeated.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Going with the undefeated, you could grab the guys who, just padded the record a little bit, or you could have the guys like we have this season who actually have accomplishments. They've beaten and they've fought a lot of hard guys. You look at Bryce Mitchell; he fought in both series of fighting before being on the show. He 9-0 wasn't 9-0 with all his fights handpicked for him. He fought some really good guys, and I was really impressed by the level of talent, even in Vegas in December when they were holding the tryouts. Watching everybody in the grappling rounds, it was surprising to see how many, such a high density of talent, especially at the featherweight. And I feel like they chose the best for this season, and it's great to be competing against the best.
All right, I got a bunch of co-hosts here today, so let me turn it over to them. We'll start off on the far right. John Morgan, what do you have for my man Brad Katona here?
Yeah, props, Brad, because I got to say, all the respect that you had for Bryce Mitchell, man, I had as well, man. I thought he was one of my early favorites to be in the finals, man. So seeing you get that win, definitely I got some love for you now. Much respect there. I want to ask you, what training has been like since? I mean, getting this is a hell of an accomplishment. I mean, as you said, the talent level is so high to get to the finals, but getting ready, knowing the biggest opportunity of your life is there, what's the training like now? What's the focus now? Is there concern of injury? Is it more about making sure you're at 100% so that you're not going into this, less than perfect? Is it about getting better? I mean, what's the focus knowing that you've had all this time to work on fighting for a UFC contract?
What was exciting about this was I had 12 or 13 weeks to get prepared. So really, the first thing I did was I headed off to Portugal and worked with the coach behind the Connor Fast program. And so really making sure my already good gas tank was world class. So we've been implementing that, and what was so good about working in that program was all the rest in it to make sure I'm not overtraining, that I have time to heal all my injuries. And from there, we were able to actually get it's not every fight where you have that type of notice. I've never had this notice for a fight before, so we put together a careful game plan. All the hard sparring's done now, all the really hard work's done, because I want to make sure that my body is 100% healthy come July 6th. So it was intense in the beginning, and we've kind of ramped up all the conditioning. Most of the hard contact work, like I said, is done, and we had time to patch holes and get ready for who I'm fighting. And really, the key to winning my fight July 6th is just being the sharpest me that I can be and fight on my terms. And so that's really everything we've done. We've replicated what it'll be like going against a top featherweight. I've been sparring with the best here. Just last week, my last spar was against James Gallagher, who's a top Bellator featherweight. And, it's just it's been really exciting for me just to take my game to that professional level, not just fighting professionally, but really being treated as a professional athlete.
We got Brad Katona here from The Ultimate Fighter Season 27, undefeated. He's on the hotline here. He's now 2-0 within the season. There's 2 episodes left. Remember, you can catch this reality show, they call it, Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, and 2 contracts are going to be awarded. And again, I really love the talent level that they've had for this season. All right, Goes, what do you have for Brad Katona?
Brad, on The Ultimate Fighter, when it's teammate versus teammate, sometimes you come to expect that. That's happened before. The one thing that I think people don't take into consideration is the way the coaching kind of changes for those type of fights. It's a little bit of a mix with coaches. What was that transition like for you?
For me, fighting Bryce, we were both, to take the coach's words, professional about it. We realized that, we came on the show not knowing each other, but over the weeks, we kind of, at that point, most of the training was already done. As soon as we found out who was fighting who, and it was Bryce and I in the semifinals, then it was like, okay, we've been training together already for weeks. We've sparred together. We've rolled against each other. We've wrestled each other. So at this point, we just won't work with each other, but being in the same room isn't a problem. With regards to cornering, we just we split up the coaches what we deemed was fair. Bryce really wanted Bob Cook in his corner, so then I took Rosendo and Leandro, the boxing coach and the jiu-jitsu coach. That way I had a full MMA team behind me. So really going into that fight, we both knew we had good corners, good coaching, but in the training room, the coaches still helped each of us as individuals. Rosendo still held pads for Bryce. Leandro still worked with him on his jiu-jitsu, and same thing. Bob Cook gave me advice whenever I was doing any work. So, really, it was just, we're going to be working out in the same room, but come fight day, we both knew, we're going to be fighting for our careers here. Everything's on the line. Our dreams are on the line. So there was nothing holding us back come the fight.
Brad, what about resting your brain? And I don't mean from strikes or anything like that. What I mean is, as soon as you get your victory, you kind of know what your destiny is now, right? So really, the next day, it's almost like training camp begins for that. But it starts off a little different than what you're used to. Then you get to leave a show where you've been cut off from the outside world. Now you get thrusted right back into that situation. I'm sure there's family members that are jockeying you for time. You want to get going on your preparation. How did you adjust to all that?
In the show itself, after my first fight, knowing I had to compete again, I was fortunate that I fought the second fight. And so I knew I had a lot of time before the semifinals. So what I did was I took 2 days on the weekend, and I just forgot about the diet. I forgot about training. I rested my body and just tried to rest my mind as much as I could. Just not think about fighting, not be involved in fighting, not be in that fight camp, but just try to live as normal as I could. And, that helped come Monday when I clicked back into training. Okay, now we're in, a 2-week fight camp leading up to this. So at that point, it was ready to go back to work. And I think that really helped me maintain that mental focus from one fight to the next. In terms of after the show, just the fallout from it, everything was just exciting for me. I came off the biggest win of my career and going to be getting ready for the biggest fight of my life. But really, not being able to tell anybody was really the only hard part. At that point, I'm excited. But, in terms of family and friends being excited for me to be able to finally talk to them, to me it just fired me up. It only brought me up. It never was taxing. Interviews was never taxing. This is something I've waited my entire life for. So just having the opportunity to talk to you guys, it's exciting for me, and I'm just trying to embrace the moment.
You know, you guys, really, when you think about it, Brad's like a time traveler, right? Because he's living in the moment, but then he's got to go back a few months, then go back to the present. It's like he's going back and forth. But you brought something up that I want, that kind of, when I heard it, I said, I got to know what he's talking about. When you took 2 days off from the diet, what does that mean for you? What were you stuffing your face with?
Oh man, you know, I think most fighters, well, fat kids at heart, like we love food because we need a diet so hard that when we finally get the chance to eat, you know, not being from well, In-N-Out is well, I don't have an In-N-Out burger where I'm from. Here in Ireland, there's an In-N-Out burger. In Canada, there's none. So you know, the producers were great. They grabbed me some In-N-Out burgers the next day. So I had a couple giant burgers and shakes. And
plural.
You know, after
yeah,
that,
burgers and shakes. There was more than one wrapper on the floor.
Yeah, burgers and steaks. Like it was glorious. The food always tastes better after a victory. But you know, it was just, I knew my weight would be fine going up a weight class, and I had the time to diet back down. It was just that mental break of finally eating something that's not good for you. Just it tricks your body, tricks your mind into thinking, you know, to relax and actually, you know, untense for a second. So, you know, that was my victory meal, and then the next day I just, pretty well whatever I could get my hands on, I tried to put it in.
You know, it's funny, fighters, everything they say gets scrutinized, and I'm wondering how many listeners right now are going, In-N-Out, that's what's up, I like this guy. And he's made a fan, and how many guys are going, let's talk about Five Guys, man, I hope this guy gets steamrolled. Like, I wonder if people even go,
should have got him some Shake Shack, man. Should have got him some Shake Shack.
Hey, Brad.
As soon as he said it, I'm all in. In-N-Out, I got this guy.
Around American fast food was great.
Brad, you know, there's that saying, don't judge a book by its cover, and you can apply it so many times in life. It definitely applied to you with me. I was there when Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier, they had a media day there, and that was the same day that you guys went, you know, into the UFC PI, and they kind of gave you guys a tour, and they allowed a few media to do that. So I was there. And I remember, you know, all 16 of you are in there, and I'm just kind of like checking you guys all out, and then like mentally I'm thinking, yeah, it ain't going to be you. Yeah, probably not you. I got to come clean, Brad. I think I said that. You had, you know, again, the Clark Kent look. You know what I mean? Like, all right, you know, he must have wowed the producers. He must be charming as hell and undefeated. Much respect. Yeah. But, you know, because there were some big cats there. And, of course, at that time, I wasn't thinking lightweight, featherweight. I was just thinking 16 dudes. And, boy, man, it's been fun watching you prove me wrong and a lot of other doubters wrong. You're Superman, dog. You're not Clark Kent, that's for sure.
I was going to say, but Brad, know this as well. I remember meeting Kelvin Gastelum for the first time and going, this chump is going to be out quick. Yeah. You know what I mean? And look at what he's done. So we're not the best judge of character.
Luke Como or whatever, he went to the final, right? Like, you can never judge a book by its cover,
exactly, right? Yeah. So it's been great watching you, Brad, do your thing. You definitely earned it. And one thing here before we leave you here, or you leave us, did you have a talent? Did they just edit and not show everyone else, or was that the whole show? I was just curious if you had something. You strike me as a guy that probably has some other talents other than beating people up. And I'm talking about last week's the talent show you guys had.
Oh man, that talent show was great. But thanks for the support first. I really appreciate that. In terms of talents, you know, none of my talents were really exciting or really anything to show off. Like, I beat everybody in the house at chess. Like, I never lost a game, but they're not going to show a highlight of me checkmate. That's not overly exciting, you know. And besides that, like, everybody else was just so interesting. Like, John Gunter,
that was awesome, dude.
He cut his talent, though. You know, he had magic tricks. He had more to that than we saw. He had a puppet show. You know, there's so much I wish people could have seen of that talent show. It was amazing. You know, there was definitely some talented guys there. So I knew I couldn't compete, so I just enjoyed the show.
All right. Yeah, they had a break dancer. They had the bow and arrow. And they had the...
I don't even know what you call that, right?
I don't know.
That was so funny, though.
Little man, the little John Gunther. But anyway, all right, Brad, thanks for spending some time with us again. It's been great. And Safe travels to America. I think you'll be leaving soon. The finale's right around the corner, and we'll definitely be tuning in. So we really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for having me on. Like I said, this is all just extremely exciting for me. So thank you very much.
All right, take care, Brad. Big shout out to Aaron and Chelsea from the UFC for lining that up. And again, catch the show. There's 2 episodes left. The last 2 finalists will come out of those Wednesday nights on Fox Sports 1. That's channel 219 if you have DirecTV like Goz and I. And it's 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. We'll be right back after this break.
what they say, and your life will be a lot better. Here are Gorgeous and Goes.
If you play fantasy sports, SiriusXM has the channel just for you. Listen to Fantasy Sports Radio to hear expert advice from top fantasy baseball and fantasy football analysts. Whether you need help setting your fantasy baseball lineup or you want to know who the breakout players are in the upcoming fantasy football season, the place to be is Sirius 210 XM87 and streaming on your phone or at home on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. All right. Our next guest, Austin Springer. Oh, by the way, follow Brad Katona on Twitter at Brad Katona. Let him know you heard him on the at MMA Junkie Radio Show. Austin Springer is at Austin Springer on Twitter. Austin is one of the winners from the Dana White Contender Series. Unfortunately, he was the only one of the winners that didn't get a contract. But still, man, that was a gutsy win in round 3 over Giga Chikadze. And he joins us now on the hotline. What's up, Austin? How you doing?
Good, guys. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for joining us here on the MMA Junkie Radio Show. I mean, congrats on the win, but obviously it's like a two-part thing, you know, over there. You have to win, and most people want to win and walk out with the contract. So four of them got a contract. You didn't. How you feeling? I mean, you should be really, really proud of that win, but at the same time, like I said, everyone else was skipping out of there, and you know, you weren't.
Yeah, I thought I was going to have like my little Oprah moment, and Dana was going to be like, and you get a contract, and you get a contract. And everybody did but me.
Man, I'm glad you can have a sense of humor over it, because we were gutted for you, honestly. We're used to hearing one name, maybe a second. We heard 4, and I had never heard. Have you guys ever heard 3?
I thought I heard 3.
I think there's been 3.
Okay, 3. I had never heard 4, and I really thought like you did, Austin. I thought he was going to say, you know what, fuck it, we're going to have them all. And it didn't happen. And again, you know, that fight was very, very gutsy. I think we had it 1-1 going into the third. And, you know, Giga's got a little bit of a following. He had a loud following there, but I think just a lot of people were just excited. You know, they're tweeting Giga time and things like that. And you silenced everybody, my man. So anyway, let's talk about that. How are you feeling right now? Are you been able to pick yourself up and celebrate it like a win, or what?
Yeah, you know, I was pumped after it. I mean, a win was the goal. First off, I mean, getting a finish, yes, you know, that's better, but I didn't want to put myself in a position where I'm trying too hard for a finish to where, you know, I lose the decision. So winning was first and foremost. You know, performing to the best of my ability was what was most important, not necessarily trying to scramble and get a finish. Luckily, you know, I was able to do so. I was able to, like you said, I think it was 1-1 going into that third round. I think, you know, up until I got that last takedown, it might have been in his favor. So, you know, overall, I'm proud of the performance. It's something to where, you know, I can look back on, whether it's, you know, coaching or even teaching, you know, my sons, like, never give up. There's always time left to make that come from behind win. And, you know, I didn't get a contract, but when you keep working, the contracts will take care of themselves. So let's keep pushing forward.
Austin Springer, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio, 10-2 overall. He's coming off a win this past Tuesday at Dana White Tuesday night Contender Series over Giga Chikadze. John Morgan?
Yeah, Austin, I wanted to ask you, you know, as we were watching the fights the other night, I was actually sitting next to Brett Okamoto from ESPN, and he had a question that I thought was interesting, and I wanted to ask you if this applies, Austin. I mean, you know, it was kind of a grinding back-and-forth type fight, and you know, there's only a select few contracts, and there have already been some highlight reel finishes and stuff. Is there ever a moment that goes through, you know, in the fight in your head, like, well, damn it, I know this fight isn't going to be enough to get me a contract. You know, maybe now I just need to focus more on winning. I mean, does that stuff process at all while you're fighting?
I can't remember. I know before the fight, when there was that really quick knockout, I was like, well, shoot, like, that's going to be tough to one-up. I know it did as, you know, a very tough competitor. It's going to be tough, so it's kind of, there's almost a little bit of pressure taken off. Like, all right, well, let's just go out there and get in a fist fight and get my hand raised. And then as the fight was going on, back and forth, I'm like, shoot, you know, if I didn't get that quick submission or quick, you know, TKO right off the bat, same thing. I was like, I don't know if it's going to happen. But then as, you know, I got to mount, or I almost got an arm triangle, and then I got to mount and I started elbowing him. I'm like, gosh, this could be it. And then he started moving a little bit more. I'm like, okay, I really got to try and finish it. And I was just listening to my corner, and he said, go for the choke. And I did, and as soon as it happened, it was about a minute later I was in the cage, I kind of processed it, and I'm like, shoot, like, this is kind of a cool story. Like, I was losing, I came from behind, maybe I will get the contract. But what I did was I started kind of mentally preparing myself, like, you know what, let's just plan on you didn't get it. So if you did, awesome, you can be excited. But if you didn't, you're not kind of let down. So I kind of mentally started preparing right there, like, you know what, I didn't get that quick knockout, I'm probably not going to get the contract, but that doesn't mean that a short notice fight won't open up. That doesn't mean that another big fight might, you know, present itself now after winning on a big stage like this.
Yeah, no question about it. It'll definitely bring some more opportunities for you. I wanted to ask you as well. This is kind of a funny question, but you know, I was back there in the kitchen with you at the gym while we were waiting, and everybody got called, and you were the last one in there, and you know, took a picture of you, and I tweeted it out, and I didn't tag you in it because I'll be honest with you, I was kind of. Part of me thought, man, I shouldn't send this image out. You know, here's a guy that's probably kind of frustrated and disappointed right now, sitting by himself, and everybody else got contracts. But I thought it was a beautiful and kind of a powerful image to show how tough this sport is. I mean, everything that you guys do to sacrifice and to get where you are, and, you know, just paths and things change so quickly. I wondered if you saw that picture, number one, and number two, kind of what your emotions were, what you thought when you saw it. Were you like, F this dude for taking a picture of me in my lowest moment, or were you like, wow, I mean, this is kind of a powerful or cool image?
I hadn't seen it yet. I definitely want to check it out. And I wouldn't be upset because there's so many emotions that go through a fight. Like, it's a very real and raw sport. You know, people get pictures or videos taken of them at their highest of highs and their lowest of lows. But, you know, in 10 years or so, I'm not going to be fighting anymore, so I want as many captured moments of all of the emotions as I can get. So, I mean, I look forward to seeing a picture like that.
That wasn't too bad, John.
That's
right?
awesome. Yeah,
he could have said, "Yeah, you're the fucking."
Oh,
guy.
You're that jackass that took a picture.
Wait till I come back to Vegas. All right, goes. What do you have from a man here, Austin Springer?
Austin, we all know what Giga's strategy was. He was trying to get you with a big shot. He kept trying to load him up. But there was a moment in the fight where it seemed like you might have been out of the woods on that, and you were starting to really frustrate him. He had this look of frustration. Did you feel like you were out of the woods at some point during that fight, and it was just about really cementing that victory? Could you feel his frustration?
A little bit. And so I can't remember the second round or maybe third round where he started kind of talking to me a little bit, and I thought to myself, I almost started to play into that and like push in. I was like, well, that's what he wants. Like, he's getting frustrated, and so I'm just gonna keep sticking to the game plan. Like, it's easy to get derailed in a fight and go off path, off what the game plan is, and I stuck to it. Keeping in his face, making it to where he misses, so I can get those takedowns. And in the third round, when I really started to be able to hit him and make contact, I felt his level go down. And what I mean is, the analogy I give is kind of like a video game. You start off and your health level's in the green, and then it goes into like the yellow, and then the orange, and then the red. Like, I could see his little meter going down both mentally and physically when his kicks weren't working as well, or his strikes weren't, as good as what he was hoping for. And it was especially when I got that last takedown, I really felt like a little piece of him leave. Like, he quit trying to win and was just trying to hold on at that point. And that's when I really started to, I was tired. I did not come in this camp, full camp. I had about 3 weeks notice. But when I felt him start to break, it kind of gave me a little boost of, okay, let's hurry up. Let's put the gas pedal to the floor and see what we can make happen here.
At any point at the end of the night, can you maybe share some words of encouragement that you got either from other fighters or maybe even the matchmakers or Dana himself?
I had a lot of friends and family there, a lot of the local guys in Vegas that are from Washington, guys like Chiesa, Caraway, Gustavo Lopez were all there. And, they were all very, had tons of great things to say. My manager, talked with Sean Shelby that night, had, good input back. So, the wheels are turning. There's guys last season that lost, like Austin Arnett. He lost on Contender Series, and about a month and a half later, got a short notice call and got signed to the UFC. So, I'm optimistic. I didn't get a contract, but, ultimately I'm not fighting for a UFC contract. I'm fighting because I love it. And again, after 40, you really got nothing left. So I'm just here to ride it out, enjoy the process, not get focused on not getting a contract, but focus on, I got to go out and fight in front of millions of people. I got to get a win against a very good guy in front of the UFC. So it's like I'm on their radar. They know who I am. Now it's just time to either, go pick up another win while I wait or wait for that short notice call and make sure I'm ready.
All right, Dan Tom, our fight analyst. What do you have for Austin Springer?
Hey, Austin. I just want to say congratulations on the win. And by the way, just listening to you through this interview, sounds like you got a great mindset and a great attitude about it. But I'm more curious about maybe your attitude about, or your opinion, I should say, about maybe what this format is kind of making us all ask, which is, what is Dana looking for? The judges with a normal fight format often has us arguing whether we're media or fans. Well, okay, what are we looking for? Are we judging on control? Is it damage? And it's kind of inconsistent every time. Dana, in his defense, have been pretty consistent, where he seems to be liking the guys who get out there and get a first-round finish. And this is something I have trouble, even with my own perspective, as far as trying to grade these performances, because personally, from a martial artist standpoint, when I did jiu-jitsu, I'm just getting tapped out most of the time. I'm just getting owned, right? So there's not a lot of positive takeaways as far as submissions, but if I can get out of a bad spot and maybe sweep a guy and get on top, when I'm sitting at home beat up after class, that's my highlight for me. So watching your performance, and I made sure to write this in the article, it was so important because sure, you didn't get on the verge of being knocked out unless you tell me different. It didn't seem like that from an outsider perspective, but like you said, you did come back. You were probably losing maybe on 2 or 3 of the cards. It was safe to say you did come back from adversity. Personally, I feel that's more important than a guy going out and just uncontestedly getting it done in a couple seconds. But what's your opinion on that, Austin?
I kind of agree with you. I think it's kind of become a little apparent that, they like those quick knockouts. The only, I guess, issue that I have with that is sometimes, and, we saw it a little bit last season too, you would see, and I'm just going to use an example here, let's say an A-level fighter versus like a B minus C plus level fighter. And that A-level fighter gets a quick knockout because he fought a lesser opponent. But then you have 2 really talented guys that have, let's say it even goes to a decision. And it was a better fight between better overall fighters, and neither one of those guys gets a contract. But the guy that beat somebody that's significantly less than him got it, and it's kind of tough to see that. And I think, so an example of that is last season, my teammate Ricky Simone, he fought one of the other best guys of that entire season, didn't get a contract. But then you got guys that are, and I don't want to be some sort of jerk here, but knocking out turds that, maybe shouldn't even be on the contender level, that are getting those contracts. And it's like, guys, what are we looking at here? Are you looking for the best fighter, or are you looking for the guy that can beat up somebody the quickest? And so I think that kind of came into it. I mean, and to be honest, I didn't really watch many of the other fights the same night that I did, so I'm not necessarily bashing those guys.
Right.
But I think that the entire program, they talked about, he's a multiple-time world champion Muay Thai fighter. They praised him as being the best striker on the entire series, how Fabricio Verdum saying he's the best Muay Thai striker in their entire gym. All those accolades. And I go out and, over half the fight was on our feet. I didn't get knocked out. I landed strikes as well. He didn't ever drop me. I was able to then turn around and get that come from behind victory. I think that says a lot more than a guy that knocks someone out or chokes somebody out in 30 seconds. Because those can be a fluke.
All right.
Winning in the third round when you've been losing, that's not a fluke.
Austin, I want to thank you very much for joining us here on the show. It's been fun talking to you. I really love your positivity. Rough night, and I feel funny saying that because you won, and it was very, very gutsy win. And you're right, I was close to Chiesa and Caraway, and I don't know if you could hear them during the fight, man, but they were really, really into it. So anyway, thanks for the time here on MMA Junkie Radio. We hope to talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, you too. All right, big shout out to Ed Cap for lining that one up. We got more interviews headed your way. We're going to talk to some fighters from the PFL. PFL 2 is tonight, NBC Sports Network, 9 p.m. Eastern start time, and I'll fill in the other particulars as far as pre- and post-fight coverage when we come back on the MMA Junkie Radio Show.
up the champagne, pop. It's my house, come on, turn it up. Hear a knock on the door and the night begins. Cause we've done this before, so you come on in. Make yourself at my home, tell me where you been. Pour yourself something cold, baby, cheers to this. Sometimes you gotta stay in, and you know where I live. Yeah, you know what we is. Sometimes you gotta stay in. Welcome to my house.
All right, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show, and kicking off, if you're following the World Cup, is Croatia versus Argentina. Argentina.
Things are about to get messy.
Argentina.
Don't say it too loud.
They could. You never know. All right, let's squeeze in Marco from Waco as our producer gets in. Robert.
Yeah, after you just said that. Jeez.
Watley. What's up, Marco? How you doing?
Marco from Waco, the Passados and the Roadshow Warrior John Morgan.
Yes, sir.
Who do you got in this game, like Croatia or Argentina? Who are you rooting for?
I cannot root for Argentina, dude. It's blasphemy. I need to root for those guys. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Just checking in.
Oh, my goodness.
Just checking in.
Yeah. Hey, so I went on Sirius XM last night with Sean O'Connell fighting tonight, man. I wanted him to go so he can get some junkie karma. I don't know if he, well, whatever. Go, Sean. Really see. And I love that Austin Springer interview. I wanted a full house on Tuesday. They gave me a photo of a guy. And I don't understand the criteria for picking the winners, man, because, you know, last Tuesday we got this kid that won with a hook kick. You know, we talked about that he broke his hand during the fight. So he broke his hand during the fight.
Yep.
And then he didn't get picked up, but he retires, man. So, I mean, what do you have to do to get picked, man? Like, I don't know, man. I love the show, though. They can have to tweak it. Maybe I'm okay, just 2 winners. But whatever. It is still a fantastic show. Peace out, dudes. Enjoy the fight tonight.
Okay, Marco.
You know, first off, I'm with him on the real OC, man. I like Sean O'Connell, dude. I'm excited for him tonight, man. So not that we're playing favorites, but he was always a great interview, and I love watching him fight. So I'm pulling for him tonight. But yeah, you know what, man? I thought Austin brought up some great points as far as like, dude, a lot of that it boils down to matchmaking. You know what I mean? Like how that fight is set up stylistically. I mean, like for instance, Alonzo Minifield. I thought that dude belonged in the UFC already, anyway, right? But I mean. What I mean, 8-second knockout, like, did you really show as much as you said, Dan, as a martial artist by going in and I'm not trying to take away from him, you know what I mean? But
not that he can't.
Right, but what shows more character, what shows more range of skill, what shows more depth? But, you know, it's definitely, at least so far this season, man, those quick finishes are definitely what Dana is favoring, and rightfully so. I mean, fans want to see finishes.
Right.
But I guess, you know, the positive thing is, and Austin, I thought, had some great points there, too, is that, you know, the good thing is, look, you know, Dana may be picking based on what catches his eye, but Sean and Mick are sitting right there too, you know what I mean? And they're watching you. You know, that's going to be in their memory banks, dude. They saw you from 5 feet away. Not, you know, I mean, those guys are watching tape religiously, but, you know, I mean, watching something on your phone or watching something on a computer, I mean, yeah, you're like, okay, it kind of registers, but when you're there in person, 5 feet in front, you know what I mean? It's going to stick with you, and I think that's going to open up doors down the road. Plus, not to mention just the little things like, you've probably got high-level medicals done at that point. You know, stuff like that makes you more eligible than you would be than, you know, maybe some other guy that's, you know, fighting in the Midwest on some regional scene if they need somebody on short notice. So it still opens doors for you. But it is interesting to think how much matchmaking plays into it.
And it's 5-5, and there's guys that are losing and winning 5 that are making more than the win and show at another promotion. So financially, which, you know, a lot of fighters march to the beat of that drum. That's not a bad night. The exposure, you're on the radar, whether you win or lose. Because you can also, I mean, it might sound silly, but you can also lose a great fight, show your caliber of getting in. So obviously, because you didn't win, you didn't even get allowed to get back in. But you're letting them know, hey, maybe this just was a tough match, and maybe us two are just really UFC material. Didn't Joby Sanchez lose?
Yeah.
They
brought him back.
Came back. You know what I mean?
Austin
so there's
Arnett,
just plenty of opportunity. Dude, we can have a whole show on Tuesday Night Contender Series. It's amazing.
Weight classes too, like what?
That's the other thing.
Need,
right? As soon as I saw my man Span get that guillotine and just walk it off like a boss, like he's been there, I was like, "Oh, that's legit." But we need light heavyweights. So right away, if I was one of the other 3 warming up in the back, I'd be like, "Damn, I really got impressed because that guy's already got one of them." it's all strategic.
Well,
you know what I mean? I'm wondering, like, how do they pick the order?
The bout order?
Yeah, I guess they agree on the main event, like who maybe is going to be featured here. But the rest of it, I think that's kind of important. I would want to go. I'd want to be one of the later ones, personally.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's an order on that, but what I do like, what I was going to say when we initially opened the show, and I agree, short, digestible format is a really big thing of it. All the points, but what I like personally, kind of as a weird niche, is it's making all of us have to look at fights at how either the matchmakers, people who have to analyze fights, analysts, people who rather write columns or whatever. If you follow those beats, you're kind of already at least you should be already be thinking about fights in these contests. But now it's making us have that conversation, the fans, the rest of the media, and it's great because like you're actually having to look at layers that we might not have looked at before. That I think Austin Springer did a good job in his interview, bringing up examples as well. What exactly is a good fighter? Because when I'm looking at a guy, it wasn't that I thought Tai Tuivasa was garbage. That's why I picked Orlovsky over him last week, even though I was wrong on that pick. But it was because we didn't see a lot from Tai Tuivasa, and I judged very heavily on that. What we see as opposed to what we don't see. And it makes it a real interesting thing because not saying that Spann couldn't have came back and had a third round finish of his own. Not saying that, but he didn't show that, whereas one guy did. But who gets the contracts?
Yeah.
We were talking. George and I had a conversation when we left Contender Series, and we were talking about what the difference, because we were on a high. We were saying, what's the difference between this and a regular show? And I think the difference is on a regular show, when you're leaving, you can forecast the future. That's when you start to make matchups. And so we were just talking during the break about adding some wrinkles to Contender Series.
I love your idea.
Said. And so what would you guys think if we were to say, what if we took a fighter from each of the divisions that are being showcased, and we just said, if you get a contract in this division, if you're a 155er and you get the contract tonight, you're gonna face this guy on a future card. Make it a fight pass, so you could continue to sell fight pass.
Hang on a second.
What if you even have him there in the audience, so you can bring him in and match them up at the end of the night?
He's got nothing better to do.
Well, I love this idea. Right? I love this concept because all right. So if you followed our Contender Series coverage, we get to interview the winners or the contract winners after the show is over, right? We put it up on Junkie. It's on our YouTube channel and all that. But we do always ask them. I mean, what's next? What do you want? What is your entry into the UFC? Is there a date you're looking at? Is there a city you'd like to fight in? Is there a person that you'd like to call out? To kind of keep the story moving forward and to kind of keep the attention there. And for the most part, everybody's just been like, nah, man, whatever the matchmakers do, I'm just happy I'm in the UFC. I'm gonna go celebrate with my family, and then I'll fight whoever. But if you knew, hey, with that win, you've got Mike Jackson on August 15th. Like, what do you think? You know what I mean? Like, that would be kind of cool. Like, right? Yeah, it keeps that person. I love that idea. I mean, it would be tough to pull off, I guess, because you'd have to have, fighters. I guess you'd have to have those fighters agree to be that guy. Yeah. The UFC contracted fighters already. But we were talking during the break. I kind of look at it as like promotion and relegation, like in soccer. You know what I mean? Where, like, take the guy, not the official rankings just go 1 through 15, but the matchmakers, they kind of got their own unofficial rankings. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but take somebody that's on the cut line. You know what I mean? Somebody that maybe you were like, hey man, this guy, dude, he lost 2 in a row. I don't know if he's UFC caliber. And that's the guy that this person from the Contender Series, we know who's going to fight. You know what I mean? And I think that would be cool.
Fight for a spot.
Yeah. So these guys that won on Tuesday, and even the Tuesday before, they would be filling in that 13th bout in Boise,
Yeah,
Staples,
but they already know where
Russia.
the location is.
Gotcha.
And like you said, it would be a little difficult, but if you just know you could be whoever comes out of this division would be fighting Mike Jackson that night, then you already have a storyline going forward. If John can ask that question afterwards, now you got this guy, what's up? Now, if he's even in the gym that night, right? You bring him in at the end, you face him off.
Closest way to do a Strikeforce Challengers that everybody talks about without having to do a Strikeforce or UFC Challengers, any kind of remodeling, rebranding. That idea takes that all without
Challengers.
Exactly, without having to rebrand it. And not only the Mike Jacksons, but think about how many of this. All the turnover in the divisions. What about all the?
What about he wants to come on the show next week, man? That's not gonna be too much fun.
Well, if you look at the 3 or 4, you look at the 3 in the rare four fight losing streaks that people are still in the UFC. They're usually bigger name guys who are older and they're kind of on their way out. And it's so painful because you're like, oh, this guy's on a losing streak and they're feeding him this young beast.
Right.
Well, they're still getting a young guy. You're still getting that dynamic. You're still getting the turnover where some guy can get over on another guy's name. You still have that, but it's not as rude because kind of like what Austin Springer was politely saying, you're getting a different talent level from these Dana White Contender Series show than some random guy named, who's this Bohachinia guy? I don't know. Okay, well, let's throw him against the ex-welterweight champion who could maybe have made lightweight. Okay, let's see how this goes. And we can avoid those uncomfortable matchups but still getting the positive benefit from a business end.
I like it. I mean, look, it would just complicate the matchmakers' lives even more.
Yeah.
But operationally, it'd probably be a pain in the ass. But I think it would be cool because, as you said, I think the only thing we're missing is that the story kind of stops on Tuesday night. Like, and it'll pick up again later. You know what I mean? They'll get a fight announced, and then you go. But, man, if you had that immediate, and here's what's next. You know, it's the same. I mean, at every press conference, what do we do? You know, hey, Dana, I know you don't matchmake on fight night, but, you know, give us an idea what's next. I mean, champions win a belt. We don't even let them sit up there and enjoy it. We're like, hey, congrats, way to go. Who's next? You know what I mean? That's all we want to know. Who's next?
I like the ones that go, when are you coming back to Chicago? And he goes, we're here right now.
We haven't even left yet. That's what I said. We haven't even left yet.
All right, so let me just change the page a little bit.
Robert is there?
Oh, Robert called in. Okay, cool. Let's talk to Robert real fast. I wanted to change the page to Robert. Yeah. Robert Watley will be fighting tonight at PFL 2 against Thiago Tavares. Remember, these are lightweights, and tonight's features are the lightweights, the light heavyweights, and the debut of Kayla Harrison, who will be taking on Brittany Elkin. Again, they have coverage on Facebook, on their Facebook page for PFL, and we'll be giving all that info throughout the show here. And the main card is on NBC Sports Network, 9 p.m. Eastern Start Time. Robert Watley, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. The pace change is here.
There you go, man. You ready to do this thing tonight?
I'm really excited. I'm stoked. This is it's a great opponent, great opportunity. This is a possible change for the MMA landscape, and I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, all right. Perfectly said. You lost your first fight, and then you've peeled off 10 in a row. After that first fight, were you down, or were you able to pick yourself up pretty quickly and then peel off 10 in a row like you did?
I definitely was down. I'd lost my last amateur fight as well, and so I was at a point where I had to make a decision. I told myself, it's if I lose my next one, we're gonna go all in. I had met my teammate actually at the first professional fight. I met my teammate now, Mike Otero, and he invited me to come train at the gym that I'm at now, BJJ Conquest, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go all in. I'm gonna really train like a professional and give it my all. And if I lose, then, I think I'm done. I had such a great, have a great group of people around me to lift me up and kind of push me forward and tell me to, keep my head up and keep pushing. And here we are 10 wins later fighting for the Professional Fighters League.
Yeah. And I don't know what your career change would have been, but, not too many of us can make $1 million within the next 5 months. You know what I mean? So I'm glad you stuck with it. And I stare at these records all the time because we interview a lot of fighters here. We're a daily show, 2 hours a day. And when I see a bunch of greens in a row or a bunch of W's in a row, I'm like, damn, like what is this dude doing that's clicking so right to not experience a loss since 2014, and now we're in 2018 and you've stayed busy? You're doing something right.
Well, first and foremost, God has just been so good and so gracious. He's kept me healthy throughout this whole endeavor. I haven't, endured any major injuries, so that in itself is just a major blessing, especially, with the sport I do. It's just, you never know, man. I could walk out the street and get hit by a bus, man, but nothing major, and I've just, it's been a very humbling experience, taking that loss as an amateur, and then as a professional, I actually lost to somebody that I had beaten as an amateur, so that it has really kind of set the tone for me being humble throughout my career and realizing that every day that I'm in the training room is just a learning experience, and that I don't know everything, and there's always growth to be had.
Robert, one last thing here, and then I'll turn it over to the guys. You have God on your side, like you mentioned. You have family and friends on your side. You know what else you got on your side?
What's that?
Junkie karma. Fighters who do our show on the day of their fight are 60-14. That's 81%. It doesn't happen too often because not many shows are Monday through Friday shows, but with the PFL and their format on Thursdays, we've been able to lock a fighter down. In this case, it was you. A few weeks ago, it was Walt Harris at the UFC Utica card in New York. He grabbed the win. So that karma works, man. 60 people have had their hand raised. Only 14 have experienced a loss. So soak it up, man. Junkie karma's for real.
Well, I appreciate the Junkies having me on, man. I could always use everything that I get going into that case, so I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Right on. Well, we're not done yet. The guys want to ask you a question or two. Goes, what do you have for Robert Watley?
Robert, the dynamic of all of this is so different for us, and it's got to be different for you guys. Come fight night, are you going to be doing almost like live scoring as you're watching these fights, trying to determine point systems, where people lie? Is that something you do backstage, or is it something that you just wait for the whole event to unravel and then from there see where you're at and how things are going?
I mean, I think it's only natural to kind of try to figure out where you fall and where your standings are, and try to ponder how that's what kind of matchups are going to come from that, because we don't actually know how they're making the matchups. So of course you want to ponder it, but don't want to put too much stock into it. You just have to know, because it's 3 points for a victory, an extra point, or 3 extra points for finishing the person in the first round, 2 extra points for finishing them in the second round, and 1 extra point for finishing them in the third. So you just got to kind of take the points that you have, if you're blessed to get some points, and just kind of figure out your strategy moving forward, because I think a lot of guys are actually going out and changing literally the way that they fight just to try and score points, which I understand you have to take into account so that you can make it into the tournament. But I don't think you want to lose completely who it is you are, because that's the fighter that got you to this point. So I take it into account a little bit, but I'm not going to be back there like with a calculator, like, so if he throws his hand over this way, then we're going to need to divide this by the quotient and this and that. So you definitely take it into account, but not too much.
You're right. We don't really know the forecasting of matchups and things like that. So what I want to know is, when you get to your post-fight speech, does it even benefit you to maybe just say, who I'd really like? Are there scenarios that you've thought of where maybe you can talk yourself into getting the matchup that you want next?
Oh, that's actually something that I never, that I really didn't think about until now that you said that. And that actually is probably a way that I could try to steer, or any of the fighters could try to steer their path, is try to say, you know what, I think this guy and I match up really well, and I think this is a matchup that would go really well, and it would behoove the television, the guys, the higher ups, to kind of take a look at that and decide, hey, you know what, this might be a way that we can help determine the next couple of matchups. When we go into the tournament, obviously they're going to do seeding, but we do still have this one more regular season matchup where there's no real criteria for who is fighting who. So yeah, you're right. That actually might be a wise move, to just be like, what, I wouldn't mind facing Blanco Blase.
What you do is you pick the guy that you think is the worst dude in the whole roster, and you pretend like you have some kind of beef with him. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Give me a dirty look backstage.
You're trying to get them 6 points, but you don't want to be like, that guy sucks. You just be like, hey man, yeah, he was eyeballing me back there. I don't appreciate that.
Well, when
he knocked my coffee over this morning at the breakfast table.
He's in the back going, wait, I wasn't even there. I was sleeping.
When you said that, I was like, wait a minute, but they go to seeding. But
that's smart. During the regular season, that's smart.
Even aside from the regular season, what I thought was, not everyone's going to get the 6 or the 3. Or, sorry, there are going to be people that are tied. And if they haven't decided, like in soccer, there's goal differential or head-to-head or whatever. Here, they may just go, well, just these two, whatever.
You can influence it.
So, yeah, you may be able to influence it there. So, all right, good call, guys. John, are you good? And
yeah, no, I did. I wanted to ask Robert what sold him on the PFL, because the roster that PFL put together is really impressive, right? But it's a mix. I mean, there's some guys that are veterans that have been around for a while. We were talking about our boy Sean O'Connell, who's kind of coming back for that shot at $1 million. But Robert, I mean, I think you had to be close to a UFC shot. I mean, things were going well and things were on the right way. So what was it that they were able to sell you on? Was it that $1 million? Was it the league format? Was it somebody there that just treated you right? What sold you on saying, yeah, I'm going to roll the dice on this organization?
No, actually, I received 3 calls from the UFC to ask if I wanted to fill in on several of their cards, and I think it was just dealing with the PFL. How they kind of courted me. They went out of their way to, several different people went out of their way to try and recruit me, and just the willingness to work with me, to talk with me about a contract, about to be able to treat me like a real prospect. I didn't get the sense that I was really appreciated at all, or I felt like I was just a cog in the wheel with the whole UFC scheme. I asked them, I was like, okay, well, you know what, if I'm going to fight for you guys and you guys want me to do this short notice thing, I'd like to at least get, 2.5, weeks notice for me to prepare for a bout so that I can go in there and be able to at least handle myself, accordingly to what it is I'm capable of. And I was getting calls on 2-3 days notice, 5 days notice, and they're asking me to fight guys up a weight class like Mike Perry on 3 days notice. It was just, it didn't seem like they were at all really interested in me. They just kind of wanted to, fill a spot. And the PFL really sold me on, we don't care your nationality, we don't care what your following is, we don't care about these things. We want fighters who are going to come in here and just fight. And what you put into it is what you get out of it. So if you bust your hump and you come out here and you fight your heart out, you could leave with $1 million. It's not like, you know what, I like this guy, I like his funny accent and the way he makes fun of people, so I'm going to give him a better contract than these guys who've been here and, busting their hump and helping create the UFC. So I like the fact that what I put into it is going to be what I get out of it. And it's not a game of favorites. Everybody gets the same opportunity. That was really what sold me, and the fact that there's really kind of a monopoly and a bit of a chokehold on the sport of MMA right now. And I saw me as one of the top prospects in my weight class. I saw me choosing something different as a possible opportunity to show other people that there are other options, and that we can kind of shake this stranglehold a little bit and start to even things up where people fighters have an opportunity and a say in this sport, because at this point we really don't have a lot of say. We're just kind of like told to do whatever, and once we're used up, then they send us off to the glue factory. So I really enjoy the fact that the PFL did bring in veterans. They did bring in prospects. This is a field of just it's really an unknown. There's no idea who it is that is going to take this home, and I love that surprise, that just that not knowing what's going on. I feel like a kid at Christmas,
All right, Dan Tom, our fight analyst, he'll close things up. What do you got for Robert Watley?
I'm enjoying your perspective here, and I almost just want to stay on that and pick you apart more. But as far as speaking of unknowns, I was looking at I was looking at some of your past fights, Robert, and I really dig your style, man. I was going to ask you kind of what kind of background and where you draw from, and if you find that a benefit of fighters not knowing a lot about you. Because for people that don't know, I mean, I don't want to sound the proverbial he can do it all, but you're really strong in the clinch. You know your way around on the floor, from defending submissions, doing damage on top. I really like your style, your feints on the feet. But who can you credit to that? I mean, obviously yourself, but who's helping you out develop as a fighter?
Ooh, man. I honestly did Taekwondo when I was younger, and then I got away from that, and I did football. I was homeschooled until 8th grade, so I didn't really have like anything traditional. There's nothing traditional about my upbringing, about my style, my stance. I kind of grew up on the Bruce Lees and watching stuff like Gladiator and Terminator and stuff like that with my dad. So I've always thought the coolest thing was just to be this ultimate warrior who could do whatever it was the situation called for him to do to attain victory. So I've kind of made it a point to always to be as adaptable to every situation as I can, and that means I need to be able to put myself into every situation I can, both positively and negatively. So I watch boxers for my stand-up inspiration, and kicks boxers. I watch jiu-jitsu guys for my jiu-jitsu inspiration. A lot of guys look at good MMA guys and they take their inspiration from that, but for me that's like MMA guys are really good. They're good at pretty much everything, but they're not great or spectacular at any of one of those particular arts. So I study and I train with the best guys in those arts that I can come upon, that I have the opportunity to train with. So I take my inspiration from pretty much life and every person it is that I train with. Everything's everything can be a learning experience. You can look at everything. It could be a negative, or it can be a positive. Even a loss, even a heartbreak. Everything has a potential for growth. So I'm just learning to grow as a person, as a man, as a new father, and as a friend, as a teammate, as a husband. So I'm just enjoying life right now.
I love talking to this guy.
Yeah. Are you the guy getting in a fight tonight, or are you the manager that stepped in for Robert Watley?
Hey, speaking to him and finding out he's homeschooled, don't you secretly wish he has pictures up on the wall like valedictorian, captain?
He's got to be a lock for valedictorian. Yeah,
just have a bunch of those.
Exactly.
I definitely wasn't valedictorian. That was definitely I grew up with my brother, and then my parents also raised my 2 cousins, so I basically had 4 siblings, but it would definitely have to be my cousin. He was the smart one, so I definitely wasn't valedictorian.
Hey, listen, man, hopefully we took your mind off the fight for at least a few minutes. It's going to be great to watch you tonight. You know, we're supposed to be objective here, but 1% of us has to root for you because we want to keep the Junkie Karma alive. So go out there and do your thing. You have a great opponent in Thiago Tavares. He's a veteran. He's got a name, so it's one of those wins that can mean so much. It'll make you, continue on there with 3 points or 6, and to use a pro wrestling term, it'll put you over. So I love the matchup, and it's been really fun getting to know you, Robert.
And thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate you guys taking the time and asking such great questions, and then let me ramble for a little bit. Love you guys, and hope you guys have a blessed rest of your day.
Take care, buddy. All right. Thanks for the time. All right, that's Robert Watley on Twitter, @RobertWatley89.
Dude just earned himself a spot on the squad, didn't he, man? That's a good dude
right
right there.
Dude. What a chill dude. But those are the dangerous ones, He's definitely not pacing back and forth and wasting energy. I mean,
meanest guy in his class.
Meanest guy in the class, too. Yeah, the cousin was smarter, but unless the brother took him out, he's probably the meanest guy in the class. All right. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. We'll be back. We'll be talking to Josh Copeland. And we'll also cover the latest news in mixed martial arts. There was a big cut yesterday with Josh Barnett. We also got the daily debate. So stay close. We'll be right back.
I get paid to say things in this cool voice, and they get paid to be lame. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Hear your favorite sports from a different perspective on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. VSiN gives you the view from the counter on the only channel broadcasting live from a Las Vegas sportsbook. Follow the money while you follow the games on SiriusXM Channel 204. Odds are you like what you hear on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. All right, our next guest, Josh Copeland. We had him on a few weeks ago. Things didn't go his way in his first fight at PFL 1 versus Jack May. He experienced a loss. But remember, this is a regular season followed by a playoff, and they also use a point system to cut off the 12 fighters and whittle them down to 8. So Josh definitely still has an opportunity to progress, and it's not how you start, it's how you end. So let's talk to Josh Copeland, the Cuddly Bear, see how he's doing. What's up, Josh? Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio.
Hey, guys. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Hey, so obviously it sounds to me, I don't know if Greg told you, but I think you're going to be sharing with us your next opponent and location. At least the good thing is you're healthy and ready to go, I guess, in the what would be fight number 2 or game number 2, because we are calling it a regular season.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I am healthy. Everything checked out with the doctors and all that. So, man, those liver shots are no joke, I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm. It's not how you start, it's how you end. So you still got an opportunity to get a win in your next fight, and using the point system, be one of the final 8. All right, what they tell you? When are you locking up against? Who are you locking up against, and when?
So it's 4 weeks from today in Long Island. So going back to New York, and then they're matching me up against Sean Jordan.
Oh, Sean Jordan. Okay, cool. All right, solid matchup there. I mean,
yeah,
they've accumulated some great talent.
That's the one I've been wanting.
Okay, so this will be in Uniondale, New York, on July 19th.
Correct.
So when you say you've been wanting that fight, what's the motivation? Is there some stylistic matchup, or you got a little issue there, or why is that the fight you've been chasing?
And no issue at all. I respect Sean, and that's man, just for me, I would so much rather fight someone with a name than someone that doesn't have one. So man, Sean is, I'd say he's probably got the biggest name on the roster, and yeah, I mean, we match up, I think, pretty well from just our size, our reach, and all that. And yeah, that's it's one that I think will be a people pleaser. We both throw bombs, and yeah, it'll be fun.
All right, Goes.
What was the first thing after the loss that you felt, as soon as you got into the training room, that you felt you had to address?
Man, to be honest, I felt good. I felt good leading up till he kneed me in the liver, you know. So I felt good striking. Surprisingly, I felt good striking against him. You know, just with how much taller he is, being 6'8", and then you know, I felt like I was doing good, grinding on him against the cage and all that. Just, man, people have no clue how much luck goes into the sport also, and it's crazy when they replayed the knee that I threw. Man, it looks like I hit him perfect square on the liver. And you know, it didn't faze him, and then boom, he lifts his knee up, catches me perfect on mine, and yeah, I was in survival mode. Don't get finished, you know.
I know it's a difficult situation, and a lot of fighters take their time, turn the page, and move on. Now that you got an opponent so quickly, though, does that help the process of turning the page more for you?
Absolutely. It's I don't know. For me, it's you really don't have time to go home and lick your wounds, and yeah, you don't really have time to even get too emotional about the loss. You know, it's moving on to the next one and getting ready to get that W and make the playoffs. You know.
You guys aren't going to believe this. I'm 39 years old, and I just figured out what lick your wounds means. For my entire life, I've always wondered what people mean by that. I just figured it out.
I mean, like the literal meaning
Like
of it,
the
or
literal meaning of it.
like the origin of where it came from, or
yeah.
What
I never knew
at
what
this
that meant.
moment or
at this
recently?
moment, right now, when he said it, I just thought of it, and it's animals, right? Like,
Right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I never knew that. People say this on the show all the time, and I would always go, what
He's
does
a
that
cuddly
mean?
animal.
I was gonna
too.
say
He's a
it's-
cuddly bear.
What better way to learn than from the cuddly bear, right?
Cuddly bear. Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome.
All right, so
Oh, well.
Josh, we got the opponent, we got the date, but look, man, we got to keep it real with you. There is one component that's very exciting to PFL, very exciting about PFL, and that's those extra points that you can gain. All right, so there's the 3-point win, the 4-point win, the 5-point. So so right now you're gonna have a little bit of a sense of urgency. Not that you don't go in there trying to finish. We know every fighter goes in there trying to finish. You do have a tough opponent, but back to when John was remarking, is there something about the Jordan matchup? You're excited because it's a tough opponent, but at the same time, if it was an easier opponent, it may be easier to get those 6 points. You see what I'm saying? Have you thought all that through? I mean, this is really, really something that's going to matter on that night. I'd hate for you to get a win but lose on some sort of a tiebreaker and not be able to continue, man. $1 million is $1 million.
No, you're absolutely right. And the way they're setting it up, it looks like they're matching up the winners with the winners and the losers with the losers.
Mm-hmm.
So I know Daniel Gallimore is going to be facing I want to say he's from Sweden or the Swiss guy, the one that Jared Rochelle beat.
Okay.
And then I'm guessing they're going to set up Jay Kuhn and Alan Carr. But I'm curious to see how that's going to play out, just because they both got knocked out and they both had, I want to say, a 45 and a 60-day suspension.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they're going to be able to get those reduced or how that's going to work. So, but yeah, I mean the way it's playing out, the 6 of us, that'll be 3 fights, and so basically 2 guys that win will make it into the tournament, and the guy with the least points, so hopefully it's a couple of those guys get a, what do you call it, a decision, only get to 3 points, that way a finish in any one of the rounds will allow you to get in the tournament. So
yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah. Basically, you're in single elimination mode at this point. You just got to win the whole way through. That's that.
Yeah, just win, and that's so of those 3 fights, we're fighting for 2 spots.
Right.
So we'll see how. Yeah, just got to outpoint one of them. So
all right. Well, thanks for breaking your fight on the show, and glad to hear that you're in good spirits. I hope you have a safe camp, for this next month or so, and good luck on July 19th, PFL 4.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right,
yeah,
take care.
It's going to be fun. So,
All
right, see you guys.
All right, Josh. We'll see you. All right, you can follow Josh on Twitter at Josh Cuddly Bear. He's got Sean Jordan at PFL 4. Tonight, NBC Sports Network, 9 p.m. Eastern start time, 6 in the Pacific time zone, and also on Facebook, you get about a 10-minute pre-show, and then they get right into it. 8 fights on Facebook. You got to go to the right Facebook page, though. It's PFL MMA Live. You'll get 8 fights. Then they turn it over to NBC Sports Network, and then afterwards they'll go back to Facebook so that they can have some post-fight coverage.
3:15 if you're in Vegas on the best time zone, Pacific time zone. I mean, how great is that? Thursday after. We got fights on Tuesday night. We got fights on Thursday afternoon. I love it, man. Everybody, there's too much MMA. Hell with you. There's not too much MMA.
Tell me about Singapore, though. I didn't do my due diligence. I figured they would just adjust to us, and it was going to be either the 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. main
No,
card.
that's a local show. They're basically, Singapore is 12 hours ahead of Eastern time, so 15 hours ahead of us.
So what time do we get it at? So
we get it here. It would be 1:30 a.m. for the prelims and 5 a.m. for the main card here in the Pacific time zone. So, yeah, actually this Saturday, it'll probably be the first.
And that's technically Saturday a.m. or 1:30
Saturday p.m. there. Yeah, Saturday a.m.
For us?
Yeah.
Okay, so
late Friday night, early Saturday morning, however you want to look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just saying, I mean, I think this will be the first UFC I don't watch live in I can't even tell you the last time, because I actually have to work. Our staff is going to be up covering everything live, so if you happen to be up or you're wanting live results, most of our team is going to be up, and we're going to have live results even though we're not on site. But I'm actually working from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. that day, so I'll be just handling everything like afterwards. So I'll be watching after the fact.
I may be joining you, man. As you know, usually I like the live tweet during the shows, and I've done the Asia shows. I think the last Singapore one. Like I've been up for those, but this one's tough, man.
I might wake up for the main card, 5 a.m. Pacific for the main card. I might be up for that.
Yeah.
But no way the prelims. Couldn't do it.
I'm an old man. Depends on what time I get to sleep Friday night, but I might try to do the same thing. If I go to sleep early enough, set that alarm a little earlier, wake up for the main card. I like that plan.
Yeah, Dan, you're an old man.
Old man Dan.
What the hell does that make us?
Grandpa.
I'm like Benjamin Button, though.
So barely hanging out over here.
Hey, I'm Asian. I could be like 50 for all you guys know. I'm half Asian. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you could be 70 right now. We don't know.
You guys don't know.
Let's do the daily debate, guys, and then also lead into a subject I want to cover. But let's do this first. Here's the question for the day. What's a good landing spot for Josh Barnett following his release from the UFC? Your choices are Bellator, PFL, Ryzen, or just pro wrestling. John?
I'm sitting on the fence between two. I would say either Ryzen or pro wrestling. I mean, maybe you could do both. You know what I mean? That's what I think I like about the freedom of being able to do that. I feel like his star power is almost greater in Japan, and plus the variety of matchups. I mean, they get to have so much fun with whatever they do. I mean, that's not necessarily about championships or competitiveness. You know, it's just about drawing power. And of course, he's got the extensive background in pro wrestling as well. And hell, you could probably do a wrestling match in Ryzen. I mean, they'll do all kinds of stuff. They have fun with their rules. So, yeah, can I go see Andy?
Sure.
All right.
Goes?
He said it perfectly. I thought Ryzen was the first thing that popped into my mind because he can do both there. And Josh has always been that type of guy that likes to do things his way. And I think Ryzen would more cater to that than some of the other options.
I heard Bellator pays well, and with them is still in the process of establishing their champion. I don't know. I don't know if he would have the competitive juices to go in there and maybe give them 18 months and then boom, bounce and finish. I would say pro wrestling.
Grand Prix alternate?
I think he'd be great for it. Yeah. I think he'd be great for pro wrestling if he could have the type of schedule like what we're seeing out of Ronda maybe, or especially, but more specifically Brock. Hey, call me for the big show. SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. I'm there. You know, occasional spot, but for the most part, he's on his farm in Canada. Because, I mean, this guy is 40 years old, and to be on that grinding, grueling schedule that pro wrestling has, I don't think that's for Josh. He's got a good commentating gig. He needs to be a spot guy that can do his thing. So, because I'm thinking, you know, WWE, but he has wrestled in Japan. He has fought in Japan. So those are great options. But I'm just going to go with Bellator. I think he can give them, like I say, a quality 4 fights maybe over 18 months. How about you, Dan?
Man, you guys nailed it. I wanted to go initially with Ryzen, with the whole Japan angle, you know, with the pro wrestling angle. I say take your money and run, Josh. You've done enough. But if this is an MMA show and he is an MMA fighter and he has had championship aspirations, even though he's earned championships, but, you know, to get back to that level before, if he still feels that way, then out of these options, I'm with you, George. I will say Bellator. I think he's still got flexibility to do his other spots. You know, Bellator lets guys do kickboxing. They let other guys do commentary other places. I think they can work something out there. There's enough tantalizing matches. Maybe, you know, Bellator likes redoing the Pride matchups. We've got a Mirko Krokop over there. Let's run that one back. I mean, there are things they can do with Barnett there that are fun and probably worth his while. I'll say Bellator.
Hey, did we miss it or something? I know the clock's ticking. We like to do these in 2 or 3 minutes, but hang on a second. With PFL, you know, we had Sean Jordan, unfortunately, not making weight. So you got guys with some 0 points, and with Josh Copeland just telling us that, hey,
in and chase a million.
A couple guys may not be cleared for the next round. Could he just automatically now step in? Will there be any his release? Will it be immediate where he can go somewhere else? Is he in shape? PFL should have got a little bit more love because there's a huge pot of gold at the end of the
I was told actually yesterday by a UFC official that he was granted his full release. I know Brett Okamoto came out with a piece that said they're still working on it or whatever, but I was told he was granted full unconditional release. Go sign wherever you want. So he can sign wherever he wants from what I was told by a UFC official. But you know what, man? I mean, he's got to make pretty close to $1 million anyway, right? I mean, he's got to be a guaranteed several $100,000 guy, right? So would he even want to, like, risk that to get it when – kind of do like the idea of him jumping in as like an alternate in the Grand Prix for Bellator.
Yeah.
But I feel like
got choices.
I feel like he would be expensive for Bellator. You know what I mean? And I feel like his star power is almost greater in Japan. That's why I feel like everybody wins if he goes to Japan.
Over 1,000 of you voted, and 60% actually said Bellator, 4% said PFL, 20% to Ryzen, 16% to Pro Wrestling. So there you have it. There's today's Daily Debate, brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team. All right, guys, let's talk a little bit more about Barnett. But when we come back, we got to take this last break. But we all thought the UFC cut him. He actually asked for his release.
Yep.
He was free to take an assignment, a booking, because he was cleared of everything that having to do with the USADA allegations from over a year ago. Got cleared, but he's the one that said he didn't want to deal with USADA. So we'll talk about that when we come back. It's MMA Junkie Radio Show on Sirius XM Rush 93.
Blah, blah, blah. Here are those two dummies, George and Goes.
All right. Let's just jump right back into it. We did our daily debate talking about a landing spot for Josh Barnett. And so that may have actually broke the news to you all that MMA Junkie broke last night. Josh Barnett was released from the UFC. John Morgan, he asked for it. The UFC didn't cut him. He asked for it. And upon seeing some more follow-ups from ourselves and other journalists, his dealings with USADA, that's just something he didn't want to continue.
I get it, man. Listen, like you said, he's 40 years old. He feels like he got wronged by USADA. So on the one hand, it's kind of a moral play, right? Like he's just like, F these guys. I don't trust them. I don't like the way they handle this. I don't want to deal with them anymore. But at the same time, I bet there was a little bit of a business argument in there as well. Dude, at 40 years old, is he going to compete for a UFC title? I mean, do you think he's an absolute elite level heavyweight? Of course he's a top level heavyweight. He's got the skills to compete with anybody. But is he on a championship trajectory right now? I don't think so, and I don't mean that in any disrespect. I bet he's able to cash in better somewhere else where he can maybe be, the bigger fish in a smaller pond.
Mm-hmm. He was 3-2 since coming back to the UFC, and I got to believe that if Lewis beats Ngannou, then he could be in a position to be next. Kane at any moment, I've always said, when he comes back, he's not far from the front of the queue.
No, he's right there.
And then, of course, if Cormier and Stipe have a classic, then they may just run that one back. But so Barnett would have to take at least one fight and just be amazing, and then possibly could be considered if the right people won or lost. So, yeah, that could be it. You know, there's the Bellator step in there possibility. There's PFL maybe step in there for this season. If not next season, there's the Ryzen Pro Wrestling angle. Who knows? Who knows? But he just didn't want to deal here. You know, it's unfortunate that he had those problems in his past, because obviously this is going to be kind of like the eyebrow. You know, like, are you sure that's why you didn't? You know,
I get
it. But
we were talking a little.
He probably understands that too.
I was gonna say we were talking a little bit during the break. I do kind of like the idea of going to Bellator if Fedor loses in the tournament. Because if Fedor wins in the tournament, you got to keep the tournament going, right? You got to put him up against whoever he's up against. But if Fedor loses in the semifinals, then if you could put Fedor and Barnett together, and that's not even your tournament final, it's just like the co-main event on that card or whatever, or another card entirely, it's a hell of a fight to put together that we always want to see, you know?
Let's stick with the heavyweight theme. You were telling me about Greg Hardy, who recently got a developmental contract with the UFC. He was a winner at last week's Dana White Contender Series. And although he's not completely in, it looks like they're going to work with him. However,
yeah, it's not even up on MMA Junkie yet. It'll be up there soon, but it's not fresh news, but it's just kind of making its way to the MMA world. This past Saturday, he was playing Arena Football League and hurt his knee. Now, we're told that he's okay, that it's not like any kind of ligament damage. He was able to play later in the game. But what the hell is he doing 4 days after getting a UFC deal playing in a football game? And listen, all week long during the week of that Dana White Contender Series, he made it clear. He was like, I love football, man. He's like, I'm passionate about football. I think somebody asked him, you know, if the NFL came calling, you know, you were in the UFC and the NFL said, come try out, would you do it? And he's like, hell yeah. Like, football is his first love. And he had been playing Arena League before that fight. The Richmond Rough Riders, I believe, is the name of the team. It's arena football. You know, they kind of gave him a second chance, so to speak. And
they allowed him to fight while being under contract.
And they allowed him to fight. But here's what's interesting. So this team, they advanced to the championship, which is, I think, next week. And basically, they tweeted yesterday, basically just teasing their championship game, that tickets were going on sale or what have you. And they were like, you know, Greg Hardy fought through injury, and now we're in the finals. And it's like, whoa, what? And so we reached out to the UFC, and they were like, wait, what? And we reached out to a couple people behind the scenes, and it doesn't sound. We don't have all the details yet. We're still collecting the details. But initial discussions with everybody I spoke with this morning on the way to the studio, and as I was in the studio this morning, were a bunch of people going, wait, what? So interesting. What's happening here? Did he clear? Maybe it's a situation where he hasn't actually signed that UFC contract yet. So this is a loophole, and I get it. If this team gave him a second chance, maybe he feels like he owes it to them, to play for the team and to be kind of a draw, and B, probably a pretty talented guy on the field as well. But it just seems weird. Like, you just got that UFC deal, and yes, it's a developmental deal, but still, it's got to have all the same, language that, like, you can't go play another sport, especially something like football. Yeah. You can't go racing motorcycles or something, Mm-hmm.
All right, I did want to. We're going to do 5 minutes of overtime. I just want to pitch something to the guys, because we're always talking about fighters, matchups, things like that. I want to talk about the promotions and some moves that have been made, and I don't know that we've really talked about it enough. So if you guys just give us 5 minutes, I want to get the guys' thoughts on it. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Sirius XM audience, you're going to get some additional content from our channel, combat sports content, such as the Luke Thomas Show, At the Fights. It's our boxing program with Jerry Cooney. We also have Busted Open Pro Wrestling Show. Is really, really, really great. If you love pro wrestling, man, those guys really get in depth there about that world. And then aside from that, there's MMA Tonight, featuring Misha Tate, AJ Hawk, RJ Clifford. They kind of have a rotation there, especially with Misha out because of she recently had a baby. They've been kind of switching it up with Ryan McKinnell. But tune in, man. They really have a quality show.
But if you want to learn more about our show, pick up the front page of USA Today today, and you will learn a little bit.
You don't even have to open it anywhere. It's just right there on the front.
We'll be right back in about 15 seconds.
I'm gonna keep on the run, I'm gonna have me some fun. It cost me my very last dime. If I broke, well, I'll always remember that I had a swing in time. I'm gonna give it
You guys are clear for overtime.
All right, so guys, let me ask you this. I think the UFC did a great move with Dana White Contender Series. I think we can all agree on that, right?
Yep.
Right? About 2 years ago, LFA and RFA, they merged. I thought that was a nice superpower move between the two. It seems like all the promotions are making moves. WSOF became PFL. PFL had a couple shows, let's not forget. And then they go, oh, now time to bring in this $1 million idea that we had about 5 years ago when everyone was talking about these $1 million tournaments. Bellator just said they're going to have a big announcement. Now, they're going to have Wanderlei Silva and Quinton Rampage Jackson. You know, they're going to be talking about an upcoming fight that they're going to have, which will be the 4th edition of their rivalry. Yeah. But they also say they're going to have a landmark distribution deal, you know. So how about this, man? These promotions, you know, trying to keep it fresh, trying to make some moves. Which one of you guys been the most excited about? And I know the UFC is the low-hanging fruit. If you have to say it, give me a number 2. If you have to say UFC.
I mean, listen, the UFC is number 1. They're going to be the 800-pound gorilla for the foreseeable future. I mean, they're the industry leader. There's no question about it. But I mean, I'm excited about the PFL, man. I really am. And not that I don't respect what Bellator's doing and everybody. I mean, I appreciate, like you said, a lot of the hustle that everybody's making. But I love the fact that it's a new format that doesn't feel gimmicky. You know, I've heard a lot of people say, well, it's kind of like the International Fight League. And I'm like, kind of, but that was kind of gimmicky to me. You know what I mean? Yeah, the whole thing. Dana, that line used to always crack me up when he talked about the angry beavers versus the mighty woodchucks or whatever. You know, it's so true. You know, it felt gimmicky to me. This doesn't feel gimmicky to me. We're not trying to make teams that don't exist. We're just saying, no, it's still the same concept, but you do control your own destiny. You know, everything that Robert said earlier, man, I thought was a great point. You know, and I love the point system. Did you see what they did yesterday? And I don't know if they kind of made this up on the fly, if it was in their rule book, but you saw Efren Escudero stepped in as a short notice replacement, missed weight. And what they said is, okay, fight goes on, but you get 0 points regardless. Win, lose, draw, whatever, you get 0 points. I was like, okay, I think that's a good rule. You know what I mean? Like, I like the concept. And again, I cannot wait until December when 6 guys get to hold up a check for $1 million. I mean, these are and
the loser gets $200,000.
Yeah,
man.
not bad.
That's pretty cool to invest in yourself and then come back for season 2.
Yeah,
and that'll be interesting to see how oppressive the contracts are or how strict. You know, are they going to keep them? Is there something there that says, hey, we got to feature you in season 2, or if it's just an opportunity for you to, you know, you
don't take your $1 million and run. No way.
Yeah,
no way.
Goes.
I'd have to go with PFL as well. I think it's going to get very interesting, but I like the heavyweight Grand Prix, and it's something that I just wish somehow the UFC could figure out a way to spin their own, just because of the talent level in some of these divisions. But that heavyweight Grand Prix is fun.
Dan?
I'm glad you brought up this topic because it's, you know, whether you have the PFL, who's probably going to be my answer for what they're doing because it's something new, fresh, but kind of feels a legitimacy that I think is winning all of us, even the critics over, fighters and in full. But I like what, you know, one is doing for Asia, Risen, Japan, Combate Americas, and we're seeing almost people take the baton from the UFC, where the UFC, from the, what was it? What was the Abu Dhabi, that company that they bought? They were going to have
Flash
control, for all the way from those days, because those were kind of the early seeds that you don't understand the big picture of what we're doing here, guys. We're taking this thing, we're going worldwide with it. Then we saw the influx in the shows, and we're still kind of dealing with that residual. Meanwhile, they kind of seem to maybe pull out their support, whether it's Latin American markets. So instead of coming at UFC for maybe, you know, expanding these markets, but maybe looking like, oh, well, what did they do? It looks like they're backing up, like military-wise. There's maybe an argument that they did their job, but the baton is getting picked up by other promotions and not them now. Is there truth to that?
There is truth, and let me throw one wild card out there too. It's a very specific one, but one company that I like as well is KSW.
No, I want to go to one of their shows.
I want to go to one of their shows. Yeah. Their shows are over the top. It's like Pride. I mean, it's like they're redoing. That's basically just recreating Pride. I mean, grandiose, huge, you know, light shows and entertainment. I like it, and it's
better than one.
It's dude. It's the most produced show on the market right now. There's no question about it. And I'll tell you what's cool about it is what's really weird is having the opportunity to go over to Poland a couple times to cover UFC events. It's one of the only markets in the entire world where the regional native show is bigger than the UFC. There, straight up, people say, like, I train KSW. Like, the sport here the sport is
so
UFC,
does
right?
UFC not have a TV contract in Poland?
They do, but it's just KSW got the market first. They got the foothold first, and like the first show in Poland, I believe, was Krakow, and the UFC came and did 9,000 people. It was a fight night, so 10,000, not bad. KSW did the same building like 2 weeks later and sold it out, 18,000.
Even their weigh-ins feel better. Like I'm watching videos of their weigh-ins, not even knowing the stories on these guys. Like you're invested. They're at, it feels like old school UFC.
Yeah.
Or Pride, where they're already at each other. There's a whole show aspect to it, and it's kind of almost hard breaking these guys down because they're a legitimate organization with legitimate talents.
Yeah.
But they're so insulated, like in so many degrees. What John's saying from production to even fight skill wise, it's hard because you don't have that comparison talent because they keep their talent so well insulated and building upon each other. It's a trip.
I'm gonna say I don't think there's a USADA program in place there.
That too. That helps too. That makes it a little too.
Yeah, but it's entertaining.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think PFL is definitely closing on Bellator at a higher rate than Bellator's closing on the UFC. We all thought that Coker would do some of that Strikeforce magic because Strikeforce was making some headway. I thought towards the end.
Well, what measurements are you making there? Not in terms of TV. I mean, they've only had one show, but PFL. They've only had one. I mean,
I guess the excitement of the hardcore fan.
Yeah, I agree that. Yeah,
and one championship. God, I was rooting for them to be what Pride left, the void that Pride left. Because they do have some pageantry out there. Seems like they're well funded. It seems like they've been very, very nifty with TV contracts and sponsors.
They did come out with the great thing where their fights are on the app now. The One Championship app. I mean, you can watch it for free now.
Remember the first couple cards had an Arlovsky and a Sylvia and a Huerta and some other names, And so I thought they were going to home grow some of the Asian talent, sprinkle in some North Americans and Europeans.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they got away from that, and it's like I just can't get excited about some of these names that I haven't heard. I have to connect the dots one way or another, So even if you bring in, let's just say Luis Firmino or Sapo, like they did back in the day, and you bring them over, and an Asian guy kicks their ass, that helps connect the dots. I'm not a big believer in MMA math, but still, you can connect the dots and go, well, he did beat Firmino, he did beat Sapo. I mean, that's the same thing that a few of the promotions in Russia have been able to do. They bring in a lot of former some Americans, some whatever. Yeah, they throw out some money and they stay consistent. So I just love how a lot of these promotions are making moves, but I feel like the PFL, man, we're only on show number 2, and I'm pretty pumped up about them. And the UFC hit a home run with Dana White Contender Series. I just don't want to wait a whole year for season 3.
Yeah,
they got to get through these 10 and then give me the winter edition. We'll put a heater in that gym instead of the running the AC because it's 100 degrees outside. But finally, they're piping in the AC, bringing the heaters in the winter season, and let's get that going. Ultimate Fighter, if you want to continue with it, I'm in. All right, but I don't need to see 2 seasons. Just give me one of undefeated fighters or comeback seasons or whatever it is that clicked, or the road to the title like they did with the UFC strawweights or the flyweights. I don't know, but otherwise, just get rid of it.
Kind of completely off topic, but the Contender Series, I hope they keep doing it at the Tough Gym because I was so sad that the Tough Gym was going to go away. I know it's just a random warehouse and a piece of property, but there's so much history there, man.
John, I was telling
so much history there.
Great point.
I was telling Goes, all these shows, Gordon Ramsay's, what's the one where he comes in and says, all right, the restaurant sucks, let's overhaul it? Kitchen Nightmares, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the one with the bar guy. Bar Rescue. Man, I think the Tough Gym, look, I would like to preserve some of the history, but John, you've seen, we're all looking for that replay, and there's just like a little TV over here. I think they could have a nice big TV there. I think the UFC could spend a couple $100,000 and really tighten it up. The bleachers were kicking my ass the other day. I want to keep some of the raw feel of it. All right, I like the industrial warehouse feel, the history of it. But I still think that there's a few things they could tighten it up, and that could be their little mini arena of sorts.
I like what John said. I like what John says and kind of preserving it, but it made me think. Like I will say that is the one ultimate tough episode that I will break my streak and go back and watch. Is if they did a grand finale one. Here's how they would have to end it. If they had to end it, they have to involve the gym and have Dana White just all right, all the trouble made Junie Browning. thing? All the troublemakers for every season, they're just going to take them out. They're going to get trash, and they're just going to come stumbling back from a night of getting trash.
Open weight. How about an open weight?
With an open can of kerosene, just spread it around there. Like that's the whole episode. And they turn it in. There we go.
I love walking through that
troublemaker season.
I love walking through that gym and seeing like all the autographed jerseys and stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Maybe if they'll look, I think that place is going to go away. It's just a random dump warehouse, but I bet they end up. Hopefully, they at least like. You know how you like move it and like reconstruct it or whatever? Like hopefully they buy like a warehouse next to the new facility. Anyway,
I thought
historical.
If anything, what they were going to maybe do with that is, you know how they have representatives in different countries? So like, let's say they go to Brazil and they do Antonio Nogueira's Contender Series, but all Brazil.
Right.
I thought that's kind of where they were
they are doing a Brazil Contender Series.
Yep. And they're going to tape it. It's going to tape for 3 days in a row in August. I'm hoping I can go to the fights just because I'm a fight junkie and want to watch them. But yeah, they are going to do it, all Brazil version.
All Brazil?
And they're going to tape it. It won't air live. They'll tape it and they'll tape delay it and then it'll air on Globo. They just didn't to go down there and to set it up. They found it was actually cheaper and easier to just fly all the fighters here and have their production facility are there. They'll tape it and then they'll roll it out in. I think they're going to do 6 different episodes that air on Globo, and then I'm sure they'll probably put it on Fight Pass.
What do you
as
do
well.
for Japan? If you did Japan's Contender Series, is it Takanori Gomi's Contender Series?
Yeah.
Who's their most successful and most beloved UFC guy?
In Japan?
Kami's kind of dry, but he did have
not a
some
long list to go
success.
through here, guys. Come on.
Not really a long list.
Horiguchi's probably their most physically
I tell you who I
talented,
want to
but he's
see.
gone.
Sexyama would be fun.
That'd be a good one.
With
Keep it
glasses
sexy.
sitting there.
Oh,
Keep
that's
it sexy.
great.
So anyway, just to finish something out, I really hope that LFA, they had their big move. They are on a network, channel and everything, but I really hope that they kick it up a gear because that Contender Series has been so damaging, in my opinion, to all the other promotions because all those other promotions, they featured that talent, and now they're coming on a Tuesday night, and a lot of them are like, I'm in. 5-5, the chance to get in.
Yeah, but that's I mean, okay, this past week, 4 winners left. That's a lot. But on most nights, it's probably 3 or 4 winners at least that get featured and then go back to that promotion. Maybe that helps. You know what I mean? Like, it does always. When you could push that guy as, UFC veteran. I mean, a guy's marketable, right? When he does like a.
So, like in 2015-16, we would sit here and say, we would interview a lot of RFA and LFC and now LFA fighters and say, usually the winner, this is a launching pad. And it's true, man. Holly Holm, Henry Cejudo, Derek Lewis, Alan Jaban. The list goes on and on from both. They both came strong. At least both organizations can boast about
Mike
40
Jackson.
names. Even CES, they threw in like 25. You know what I mean? I'm giving them all kinds of love, Access TV. But you can only consume so much MMA. We can consume as much because we're hardcores. But there's other people out there like Friday night used to be their night, that. And then Girls Gone Wild later on. Hell yeah. But they got rid of that. So now it's just the fights. I know you guys were all there.
Oh, jeez.
But you know what I'm saying? And so, but now if Tuesday night is taking up your time, and you're telling the girl, hey, Tuesday night, and she's going, wait, you already get Friday night. You see what I'm saying? Tuesday night is taking your time. They got to come back with a big, strong punch. Otherwise, I'm telling you, man, it's not going to be good for those promotions because you just only have a certain amount of time. And what if PFL's a home run? I mean, that was 2 weeks ago. It was PFL 1. Now it's PFL 2. And eventually they're going to have some other PFLs, and things are going to really, really heat up.
Yeah, so if you're talking about an event where there's Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
And Bellator should also feel the pressure as well. You know what I mean? From PFL. Because there's only so much time you can consume.
Yeah.
And most of us are in that pie chart. We're giving 90% of our time to the UFC. And after that, you better have a strong card.
Yeah.
I got weddings to go to, or birthday parties to go to, or whatever, date nights.
I can barely keep up with the UFC stuff. What are you talking
exactly.
about?
There's a one championship this weekend. You hadn't even talked about that.
Yes,
I'm watching basketball games and football games now going, go number 10. Like, I don't know who people are
I don't know
now
how you guys
because
do
I'm
it.
so consumed with what's going on in mixed martial arts.
Bringing it full circle, though, I'll give some love to ACB, though, back to the original question, because you can make the argument that, how much of it, these American organizations, how much is based on their location, right? These Justin Gaethjes, WSOF was great, but these Justin Gaethjes, they have to come from somewhere, right? So by default, and granted, obviously, there are some really good ones like the Ring of Combat, the CFFCs, that kind of have their more regional, hatch outs, and they're doing a good job. Not taking anything away, but how much of it were they going to be successful in the first place? Whereas these regional promotions is a little tougher because there's so much crossover from language barrier to all these other logistical stuff. Even if you're in a place like, for example, Russia that's producing, it's not like you're short on talent there. That's not their excuse for not doing as well. But there's politics, there's production, there's other things. So bringing it full circle, the reason why I'll give love to ACB is because how about Singapore, we're getting Peter Yan quietly on the other card. Hardcores know who I'm talking about. I first came across him, ACB 32, in his fight against Magomedov. That's not a name that I made up. That is a real name. And it was the fight of the year for me in 2016, I want to say this happened. They rematched, and Peter Yan ended up winning. He hasn't lost since that close split decision. Go back, watch ACB 32. I'm sure you find it on YouTube for free. Peter Yan, he's fighting on the undercard against the second coming of Sexy Hara, Teruto Ishihara, and that should be a real banger. But that's the litmus test, right? It's not that we're talking about promotions making moves to be successful in their niche, but even on another level, can they be successful, sustain, and then start sending guys over to the UFC to represent them? I think that's another watermark for how
there's some beasts over in Russia, man. There's some absolute beasts.
And Magomedov sounds like the Russian version of like Robertson, Patterson. You know what I mean?
Well, on the Russians World Cup team, they had a guy called Samadov, and I'm like, that's great. Awesome. That's great. They just ran out. They're like, Samadov.
All right, let's get out of here, guys. Big thanks to Brad Katona, Austin Springer, Ed Cap. Shout out to you. Greg Savage lined up Robert Watley and Josh Copeland. Robert Watley will be trying to take the Junkie Radio reverse curse record to 61-14 tonight. Tune in tonight for PFL 2, NBC Sports Network at 9 p.m. Eastern time. That's channel 220 if you have DirecTV. Otherwise, check your satellite and cable listings. John, you in tomorrow?
I'm going to try.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, guys. We are out of here for Danny and John and Goes and Dan. I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and be a champion.